A little delay. About 12 minutes, but that's okay. I'm still going to do an hour and a half of this. So hello everybody who is currently not here, which I can totally understand because I had a delay. But that's okay, because hello everybody. I know you'll eventually arrive. Da, da, da. Stream is good. Stream is good. Everything looks okay. Everything looks good there. And to do that. We don't want to do that. I always forget about something. Hey, hello there, Candy Corn Never One. How's it going? I'm just finishing some touches on my screen. I also put a donation thing there. Hopefully that works. If you guys do want to donate, it doesn't really matter. I still like doing these for fun. But someone asked for it last time, so there it is. I just don't know if things work. This is okay. It's okay. Yeah. I have to turn something off. And we should be good to rock and roll. I'm just finishing up some touches. Hee hee. Good optional. Options. I know what it's talking about. Don't know what it's talking about. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. I have no clue on anything else because I'm not really sure on things. Hee hee. What's this? Oh, never mind that. Excuse me. Long day at work. Oh dear. We gotta change that. I'm just, I'm looking at things currently, so don't mind me at the current moment. A little still setting up, but I just want to make sure I got everything. I got everything. Go with that. Let me just make sure of something. Don't really know. Don't know. That's okay though. I don't really understand the whole process yet. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna load it up now. Sorry about that. I was curious about things. Hey there, Gabrielle. How's it going? Sorry for the delay of saying hi. Anyway, without any further ado, we'll get right back into the fun.
Good. A good rest is always important, especially to humans.
What about demons?
We rest as well, but it's not sleep like you humans do. We simply rest with our eyes open.
Why?
It's easier to avoid getting killed when your eyes are open.
I gulped. Were demons really that paranoid, or were they paranoid for a reason? Diana shook her head and stepped into the room, closing the door behind her.
So we need to find another way to get you back to the human world. It won't be easy, but I believe it can be done by tonight, at the latest.
Tonight? Really? Diana nodded and crossed her arms again, leaning on one hip.
It will take time to get our shadow agents to gather the necessary supplies, but they are not hard to obtain, being that we're in a position of power. You must be lucky.
What do you mean? Diana sighed before casting a short spell under her breath. In front of me appeared a floating map, almost like a hologram. It showed an entire world with mountains, plains, and forests, and it all was surrounded by a sea and water. Diana pointed at a marker that had a purple banner at its tip. It was marked in the center of some mountain and forest area. It was also the very center of the map.
That is where we are currently, the center of the abyssal plains.
Diana then ran her finger in a circle around the marker, showing a perimeter around it.
Everything we need for the spell is within this area. It will just take time to gather the materials and prepare it.
I nodded, understanding the situation. I was going to hopefully be able to go home tonight, which was better than not going home at all. So what should I do until then?
My suggestion? Stay in this room. I can mark this room as off limits so that no demon may enter that would confuse you for an intruder and kill you.
I gulped. I didn't want to die. As Diana made the magical map disappear, she shrugged.
However, I cannot stop you from whatever you wish to do. Just don't leave the castle.
I nodded. As she turned to leave, as she stepped out, Diana looked back to me with a reassuring look.
We'll get you back to the human world. I promise you that.
Finally, she left me alone in the room. I let out a small sigh and looked up at the ceiling. I had to wait until tonight to actually do anything. What was I going to do? Part of me agreed with Diana's suggestion, wanting to stay in the room and be safe, in case the guards didn't know who I was and would kill me on sight. My curiosity, however, wouldn't leave me alone and wanted me to explore the castle. I was handed an opportunity to explore a castle in the demon world, and part of me did not want it to go to waste. I was torn on what to do. So, I'm going to leave this up to you guys. Should we explore, or should we stay in the room? And welcome, Lance. Alright, we'll stay in the room. It was better to be safe than sorry. I fell back onto the bed and closed my eyes, contemplating taking a nap to make time go by faster. Staying in my room was the best option for me, both so that I wouldn't get lost and that I'd be okay in case the guards were on duty. I let out a small sigh before looking around the room. Was there anything I wanted to look at closer?
Excuse me.
Before I could find anything, I looked to the door towards the voice. Peeking in was the rabbit woman, cautiously remaining behind the door while looking at me.
Are you feeling okay?
Huh? Yeah, I am. Thank you. Please come in. Hey there, gamer girl. 10239. I trusted this woman, despite barely knowing her. She assisted me in coming to this room, and she was of Diana's comrades, so I felt that I could put my trust in her. The woman nodded before stepping into the room and closing the door behind her. She turned to me and stood by the door.
I'm assuming Diana told you about the situation.
Yeah, I'll be back home tonight. That's the hope, anyway.
Yes, we sent our agents as soon as we knew what we had to gather. We're positive they will turn up before nightfall, and we'll be able to cast a gateway spell.
I nodded and let out a small sigh. It would be a long wait, but it would be worth it. It worked. The woman, however, took a step forward.
May I ask you something?
I looked at the woman, slightly confused. Sure, go ahead. What is it?
Well,
I watched as the woman reached up and rubbed one of her ears, almost in nervousness. What was she nervous about? Finally, she spoke again, releasing her ear.
would you mind if I asked you about the human world?
The human world? Why would she be curious about the human world? She was a demon that looked like an anthropomorphic rabbit. The woman hugged her large staff against her body as she shrugged. Damn, that's a big word, though.
How are things like in the human world? Is there equality amongst your races? I've only heard stories, but since you're a human yourself, you would know.
My mind ran back to the social life of the human world. At least in America, we claim to be equal, but we had major prejudice amongst our races. Whether we liked it or not, I found myself to be on neutral ground, not wishing to be extreme or either opinions, but knowing the difference between what was morally right and wrong. And my voice just faded away just a tiny little bit. I looked at the woman and shook my head, I looked at the woman and shook my head, making her eyes widen slightly. I feel like she's a little kid in a way, you know? Just looking at you with curiosity and just curiosity and questions and the whys. Are those whys? We're not exactly equal. I mean, we try, but we're pretty divided. However, it's only one of many problems we face. The woman nodded before walking over and sitting down on the bed beside me.
I see. Are there major wars fought because of it?
In a way, we have marches and movements, but we at least try not to escalate it to war. Where I live, it's better to resolve things without violence.
That's smart. I hope that equality can be found in your world.
What about here? The woman shook her head, her smile turning to a bright grin. I could tell that things were rough here, just from looking at her expression.
We have sort of a caste system here. What kind of demon you are determines what life you live. Demons of Lilith like Diana are usually royals and nobles, while animal demons like me are much lower in the ranks.
I could hear anger and shame just from her voice alone. Were things really that bad here? That's horrible. I'm so sorry.
It's alright. That's why I joined the rebellion. We intend to make changes, make it better. I want to be part of that and help fix things.
There was a confidence in her words that didn't match the look in her eyes. She knew something was off in what she said, but she expressed it anyway as her reply to me. I didn't know whether or not to prod or keep silent. I wouldn't be here long. so I decided to keep my mouth shut. The woman shook her head out as if she was scattering the thoughts from her mind and looked at me.
So, you are getting married. You must be excited to get back with your family and soon-to-be partner.
Huh? Oh yeah, I'm excited to go back. For a brief moment, I had nearly forgotten that I was getting married. My mind began to wander to the one who was waiting for me, making my heart ache. As I looked down at my lap, the rabbit woman looked down as well.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you upset. But you will be home soon.
I nodded. I shouldn't have let it get me down, but I really did miss being in the human world. I think anyone in my situation would understand, especially since I was the bride. I looked at my hand, seeing my engagement ring, and imagining the wedding ring that was made for me replacing it. Soon enough it would be on my finger, and I would be able to continue living my life as normal. Pulling myself out of my thoughts, I looked at the woman as she stood and bowed to me.
Well, I shall leave you be. I will bring food whenever it is ready, so that you don't starve.
Thank you. I appreciate it. With that, the woman left, leaving me alone in my room to wait. I remained in my room until the night came. I was given food which looked like soup. The woman who gave it to me apologized, letting me know that food was scarce until the upcoming harvest, which was a couple of days away. Being that I was only staying the day, I didn't mind much. I was more concerned over what I was given to eat. It was some sort of stew with mysterious chunks swimming in its broth. It smelled surprisingly good, but who knew how it tasted? I'm just gonna hit the refuse. No. No way. No how. I was not in the mood to try out new things after what I had been through, and this was not something I wanted to try at all. A knock rapped on my door, breaking me out of my train of thought. Huh? Come in. The door opened to reveal Diana with a plate holding things I recognized. Bread and cheese. I let out a heavy sigh of relief before Diana laughed.
I suggest not trying that. As good as it smells, the taste would not sit well with you.
Instantly I moved the bowl to the nearby table, thankful that I did not have to try it. Diana handed me the plate and nodded, reassuring that what was on it was indeed what it seemed.
It's not much, but it's human food. Eat up.
I will. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach, despite with each bite. No, that does not say that. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach dissipate with each bite and swallow. The food I was eating surprisingly was delicious. As I began to crave something to drink, Diana chuckled and formed a small goblet in her hand, filled with clear liquid that I assumed to be water. I took it and drank it down, feeling my thirst quenched before I let out a sigh. I feel so much better.
I can tell. Take a moment to finish eating, then we'll head for the ritual.
I looked up at Diana, suddenly excited. Everything was prepared for. Was it possible to go home now? And thank you so much for distracting me, my little kitty cat. I love it when you, block my view from the words. Really, really. But, you can say hi. It's okay. No? You're just gonna rub? Okay, you do that. As if she read my mind, she smiled and nodded.
We've finished the main preparations. We just need to head over and we'll start.
Sorry for the little bong if you guys heard that, because she's just right there in my face. This would be a bad face cam view. You silly kitty cat. You are silly. I couldn't continue eating. My mind went into an obsessive frenzy of wanting to go home. I stood up, moving the plate and goblet to the nearby table. Let's go.
Huh? Are you sure?
I nodded, not wanting to waste any more time. I needed to get home, and I was tired of waiting. Diana stared before nodding and heading for the door, opening it for me and exiting after me. As she closed the door behind her, I began to feel my heart flutter in relieved joy. I was heading home. Diana led me down the corridor to the war room, where I had originally arrived to reveal the table covered in plants and artifacts of different kinds. None of it made sense to me, but I had to only assume it was what was needed for the spell to work. Diana walked to the table and took note of what she saw, nodding.
This should work.
You're in doubt?
Have to be after the last time we tried sending her home. Do we have a human anchor?
No, you're on your own this time. But we'll make sure you survive casting it.
This spell should work, however, because we'll be using energy material. It will only require a slice of your energy on top of these items, which your guard can refill immediately after this.
Just make sure you don't die casting it.
Diana smiled at her guard before turning to me.
So, are you ready to return home?
She didn't have to ask. I'm ready. Diana nodded once more before turning back to the table. She lifted her arms over the surface and lowered her head, muttering under her breath. As she spoke, the table began to glow, as did she. A dark purple aura began to surround her form as she lifted and arched her head back, staring at the ceiling. A glimpse at her eyes made me gasp. Warm golden orbs covered her body, covered her blood-red irises, glowing with magic. She was deep within the spell, and I could see it slowly draw energy from her body. The items on the table began to gleam widely, light orbs floating from them and dancing in the air above the table's surface. They began to weave back and forth with each other, almost as if the lights were dancing to a silent tune. The other demons stepped back, and Diana moved her arms up and pointed to the dancing lights. Her fingers pointed into the air, leading the lights to follow where it directed obediently. She drew a large circle in the air, and the lights followed like a perfect trail, spreading out and forming a large void in the air. As they finally stopped moving, they burst into a bright light, causing the demon and I to cover our eyes from it. It engulfed the room but died down just as fast, revealing a small tear in the air. Diana quickly leaned forward and dug her hands into it before pulling the tear apart, revealing my bedroom. Hi there, Elizabeth. Welcome to my stream again. Welcome back. Diana continued to pull the tear open, giving it enough space for me to jump through.
Hurry and go through! This is your chance!
I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I gripped the bottom of my dress and rushed forward, using momentum to jump into the air and forward towards the void. I could almost reach it. I could feel the air conditioning on my room right at my fingertips.
She will never leave this world alive!
The demon lord's voice rang through the air just as I saw my fingertips pass through the tear. What stopped the rest of my body was a red light and forcing me and Diana back from the opening. Yeah! I felt my body fly backwards and slam into the wall before I landed on the stone ground. I heard Diana as well land beside me with a painful thud. I looked up and felt my heart break as the tear became wrapped in red lightning, zipping itself closed and vanishing into the air. No, this could not be.
Damn it!
It should have worked! How could it have failed?
You must have missed something. Was there anything we had forgotten?
No. I verified everything myself.
Then why was the Demon Lord able to overpower a gate spell?
I highly doubt you know either, brute.
Stop fighting! We need to make a plan and all of you are just being stupid! Stupid, 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 stupid!
Are you all right, Zane?
I'm fine. It is
I was too lost in my mind to fully understand what was going on around me. I was so close. I felt the other side. I had almost made it home. Why couldn't I go home? Digging a grunt of pain next to me made me shoot my head towards her, and I watched her slowly push herself off of the ground and glare at the table.
The demon lords have done something more than simply bring her here.
What could he have done?
The demon lord is incapable of doing anything of the sort. His lackey imps must have done something to her.
A spell?
Curse.
I looked to the rabbit woman, seeing her stare wide-eyed at me. The other demon stared at me as well, and suddenly I felt like I was on display. Was something wrong with me?
She will not leave the demon world alive. He must have placed some sort of curse on her to prevent her from leaving this plane. In order to leave, she'd have to die.
What? My mind was blank. Did the demon lord really curse me? Was I forced to stay in this world until I died? I could never go back?
Are you suggesting a barrier curse?
That would explain the red energy that sealed the tear.
What dark magic like that requires?
One of 1,000 demons. He must have sacrificed part of his army to cast a curse on her that would prevent her from leaving.
The demon lord is that desperate for her. The only way to break that kind of curse is to kill the caster, the demon lord himself.
She's trapped here until this war is over.
My body began to shiver violently. The demon lord killed 1,000 demons just to trap me here. Why? Why? I slammed my fists into the ground and began to scream. I want to go home! Why? I could feel the sympathy and anger in the room. But I didn't care. I was beyond livid. I was far past broken. I was seeing red. Ah! As my voice ripped through the air, a bright light erupted through the room once again. Everyone covered their eyes, but Diana quickly scrambled to get on her knees and cover me with her body. She held me tightly as the light invaded the space and slowly began to fade. As the light finally died, everyone moved their hands to see what had happened. In the air was a white tear that was slowly opening, facing down towards the table. Something was coming. I could feel it in the air. The guard summoned his spear and pointed it at the tear, glaring at it and gritting his teeth.
Something's coming!
I reply, Diana summoned what looked like a saber and placed it in front of us.
Ready yourselves! It could be the demon lord!
The other demons in the room readied themselves and stared at the tear, either holding a weapon or preparing a spell. I felt the air change, becoming heavier as the tear began to grow. The energy around it began to pulsate, making everyone in the room that much more tense. I stared at the tear as well, frightened as to what was coming. Was it the demon lord? His minions? My mind began to cycle through the fearful ideas of what was about to appear. Oh, it's our lovely boys, you know. My heart almost stopped. Fallen from the tier and landing on the table were the 5 incubi brothers. They were piled on top of one another, having come through one at a time. However, as the last brother landed, the boys fell to one side, toppling off of the table and landing on the floor. The rebels around me stared at the fallen pile of incubi, confused and surprised. As a tear in the air closed, the orc man was the first to lower his sword.
What the hell?
Who are they?
Careful! They could be the demon lord's men!
No! The rebels looked to me as I stood up, Diana following and still protecting me, and I stared at the boys on the ground. They all looked dazed and a bit shell-shocked from the having fallen twice in a rapid session. I almost couldn't believe it. There they were, right in front of me. My mind couldn't help but remember how I had first met them. They had all been on the floor of my mansion, unconscious and wounded. Now they were in front of me in the demon world. I know them. I stared at the one I was meant to marry, seeing him slowly shake his head and rise from the ground. They came to rescue me. He came to rescue me. My heart became overjoyed and full of warmth and happiness. I was going to go home. The question was, how? As the sight of the boys kept the demon's attention, a second tear opened above them, causing everyone to look up. 4 women dropped down from the tear and somehow managed to fall into the arms of the incubi behind James.
Whoa!
I gotcha!
Whoa! Are you okay?
I gotcha! It's okay!
Eric!
Love, I've got you!
I stared wide-eyed. Their wives came too? I watched as the boys and the girls finally planted themselves on the ground before looking around. As James spotted me, however, he quickly rushed over.
Love!
James! To my surprise, Diana quickly moved out of the way, allowing him to approach and wrap his arms around me. The feeling of his body against mine sent a shiver up my spine. He was really here. I instantly wrapped my arms around his body, burying my face in his shoulder and taking in his scent. His head gently nuzzled into my shoulder as James curled over to bring my body close to him. It's okay.
Thank God you're safe.
You came for me. I could barely believe it, but I did. The scent of his cologne and the texture of his clothing let me know that I wasn't dreaming. He came to find me. Now the question was, how would we both leave? James gently loosened his embrace and looked at Diana, who was standing by our side and watching. I couldn't see his expression, but Diana stared wide-eyed, almost in fear of James. Why? As James began to speak, I felt some sort of violent power change in the room. While Diana held dominance before the incubi had changed, it was practically ripped from her as James claimed me once again in his arms.
Care to explain why my bride is here, Diana?
Your father.
I looked up at James to see him staring Diana down, as if he didn't believe her explanation. We'll tighten the hug, right? I tightened my hug around his chest, earning a soft squeeze from him in return, but he continued to glare at Diana. Hello there, Music the Derp. Welcome to my live stream.
And why have you not sent her back?
Again, your father.
I watched as James' eyes closed further, almost hiding his whiskey brown irises in a unimpressed and unconvinced glare.
As much as I despise my father, why do I have a hard time believing that?
From beside Diana, the spirit guard stepped up and crossed his spear across Diana's body in an act of protection. He seemed unfazed by James' glare and almost felt like he was challenging him from the power play thrashing in the air. It was like James and Diana were opposing alphas, and the guard was a protective mate.
Believe what you will. My lady was about to send her back before you came.
James looked to the guard and visibly sized him up. The guard glared, tightening his grip on his spear, but remained beside his mistress. As James looked back to Diana, his hold on me tightened.
Go on.
Diana sighed softly and placed a hand on the guard's shoulder, looking at him, but the guard refused to turn himself or his spear away from me or James. I kinda stuttered right through that. Gosh damn me.
He cast a curse on your bride-to-be, barring her from leaving this world alive.
Go on.
Oh,
He cast
crap.
a curse on your
I
bride-to-be,
hate when that happens.
barring her from leaving this world alive.
A curse?
Yes. She can't leave this world unless she dies, or until we kill the Demon Lord.
I could feel James' arms tense around me. For some reason, the look in his eyes changed from anger to almost hopefulness. Was he hoping that we would be able to leave? I hope so.
Now, I must ask that you recognize whose kindness you are testing.
Set up.
Diana tightened her hand on her guard's shoulder, almost digging her nails into his jacket. However, her eyes remained on James, now submissive to his dominant stare on her.
We have been fighting him consistently and have successfully pinned him into a corner. Our next attack will be on the Demon Lord's castle, and it will be the final battle.
Succubus, if I may.
No, you may not.
The lanky man stared wide-eyed at Diana, but she ignored him. Instead, she continued to stare up at James, unfazed at her harsh tone towards her companion. James eventually released me from his embrace and faced Diana and her guard, standing tall and almost looking down his nose at them.
And when do you plan to attack him?
With a nasty snarl, the large demon male stepped forward and glared hard at James. I felt my body tense and reflect, but James continued to stand tall.
Why the fuck should we tell you?
1 week's time.
Everyone in the room shot their heads towards Diana, mostly in shock or surprise.
What? 1 week?
That's okay, y'all know you can catch up. I looked at Diana, watching her, unable to turn away from James's gaze. She wasn't in trance, but it seemed as if she wasn't able to even pull away from the gaze battle between them out of fear.
Where is this number coming from, Succubus?
We need to fully prepare ourselves for the final stage, which I'm certain will only take a couple of days. We've pinned him into a corner. The Demon Lord will fall.
That's rather bold to assume.
She's right, though. We can prepare everything in that time frame, right?
And if he does the same and attacks us before then?
He won't.
I watched as Diana walk over and clear the table of the materials they had gathered for the gate's bow, revealing a physical map of the abyssal plains. She pointed to a spot on the map. A peninsula surrounded the water labeled as the Decaying Sea.
We'll cast a barrier spell along the edge of the peninsula and around the castle.
Ugh.
He and his army won't be able to move from that spot until we break it ourselves.
Why?
During the siege.
Why can I say peninsula? I have to say it's the peninsula. Okay, it's not the peninsula. Okay, Diana, it's the peninsula. We can't call it the peninsula. We're gonna call it the peninsula because it's mwah. It just rolls off the tongue better.
That kind of spell.
We won't be using energy.
The other rebel demons in the room suddenly tensed up and staring at Diana in surprise. What was she going to do?
My lady, you're not suggesting...
The Demon Lord has shown how far he is willing to go to win this war. It's only fitting to show the extent we'll go to in response.
As much as I agree with you, this seems a little rash.
What are you guys talking about?
Are they allowed to know?
I plan to put a barrier curse around the Demon Lord's castle and army. It's temporary, so it won't need the blood of 1,000 demons. But it will need the sacrifice of at least one demon life.
And I assume you'll be sacrificing one of my soldiers.
Is this our only option?
There are other options, but they will most likely take a lot of energy to pull off.
It just depends on what we want to do. If we want to do this immediately, then the barrier curse is indeed the best option.
I'm not opposed to performing the curse. As rash as it is, it will make our lives easier in the long run.
You expect me to hand over one of my men? My soldiers joined the rebellion to kill the Demon Lord, not to get their throats slit before even seeing the final battle?
It's wrong, but can we really afford to spend any more energy? Diana already spent a lot trying to send the human back.
What is the other option?
The rabbit woman and the fairy moved towards the map and pointed at the peninsula. The peninsula.
We can form tall rock walls around the castle. Box him in.
take a lot of our energy, but we can recover in that week period.
And what will stop the Demon Lord from tearing down the walls?
I can imbue the walls with holy magic.
The incubi and I looked at him, all of us equally surprised. A demon with holy magic? How?
How the fuck did you get holy magic? You look and smell like a demon.
The guard held up his wrapped hand, letting the beads around it jingle with a sudden motion.
I've had the ability to use holy magic ever since I was taken in by my lady's family. There's no doubt that I am a demon, but I can't recall how I gained this ability.
Holy. How is holy magic different than demon magic?
It's white magic. Unlike demon magic, holy magic isn't so finicky. Think of it as warding or dispelling magic. You can't bless air or anything that doesn't have physical form, but you can bless objects to fight back against other forms of magic.
If the walls were blessed with holy magic, the Demon Lord wouldn't be able to escape until we released him.
Why not just trap him forever?
That's idiotic. He would still be a threat regardless. Holy magic doesn't last forever. And stone will crumble eventually.
He's right. We wouldn't be able to keep the walls up forever.
The situation became more and more complicated. The more we discussed it, how were we going to go about this?
We can't just sit around and debate this forever. The longer we wait, the more we risk him striking back at us.
But is it worth killing someone to trap him?
When we finally strike, we will lose hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers anyway. What difference will it make to lose one more life on top of this?
Soulless fuck.
We can still cage him in.
I bit my lip. It was a really tough decision. A curse or a trap, which was better? Both had their prices, but we had to choose one. From the look of it, no one wanted to speak up, so I felt the urge to say something. Maybe I would be the one who would determine everything. But which method would be the best choice? And I'll go to the chat for this. So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to do the curse? Or do you wish to do the trap? Oh, we got a debate. Alright. Alright. We'll go with the curse. Everyone in the room looked at me in surprise as I finally spoke up. The Demon Lord had trapped me here with the blood of 1,000 demons. It was only fair to trap him with the life of just one. Will the curse work with just one life?
Yes. He won't be able to escape because of its dark magic.
Are you sure this is the best choice?
A monster like him won't stop if we box him in. We have to ensure that he won't be able to do anything while we prepare to fight back. Everyone nodded, most in reluctance, while the others did with confidence. Diana, however, turned to the orc man with a stern face.
As for your reluctance, Sir Brute, we won't be using one of your men.
Well then, who would you use?
At that moment, Diana smirked, sending a familiar shiver down my spine. For a split second, I swore I saw a flash of gold cross her visible eyes as she replied to Matthew.
A little mongrel who had the nerve to electrocute me in my own castle.
I stared. There really was an imp in the castle. However, my mind released the question to focus on Diana's smirk. Something was off about Diana, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. When I came to the demon world, I had barely recognized her and didn't expect her kindness. Now, as I was staring at her, at the moment, I again recognized the woman who had attacked me in the human world. Diana shook her head before crossing her arms and looking directly at me.
So, since you'll be here for a while, we might as well give you names that you can use to refer to everyone here.
Are we getting human names?
Must we?
Diana rolled her eyes and gestured to each demon, naming them on the fly.
For the sake of time, we'll use simple names. This is Rabbit, our magic advisor, Sergeant, commander of our armies, Shadow, leader of our assassins, and Faye, our nomadic force ambassador.
Sergeant, I'm a commander, succubus. Shouldn't my name be Commander?
It's easier on the tongue, though, to say sergeant.
My lady, what shall they call me?
Diana looked at Sarah for a moment, before turning towards me, a look of seriousness emanating from her eyes.
You may call him Sarah. He is my personal guard, and he is always by my side.
The other demons in Sarah seemed to be surprised. Was Sarah his true demon name? Why would she give me his true name?
Are you sure?
Call him only if your life depends on it. Do not abuse this permission.
Her eyes seemed to burn as she gazed into mine, full of hard intent and warning. I mentally noted her seriousness as she ran a hand through her hair.
Well, now that we have a plan and introductions are out of the way, I believe we can end this meeting. We have a lot to accomplish in 1 week.
What about us? You don't expect us to sit around.
Actually, I do. You all don't belong on the battlefield.
Wait, hold on. That's not fair.
I will not take untrained and unarmed beings into a war zone.
Hold on! I interjected, stepping forward and crossing my arms at Diana. She seriously wasn't going to make us stay back while she fought the demon lord, was she? So, what should we choose? Should we fight this time around, or should we just, well, you just take care of it, Diana? Hi there, Abby. Welcome to my live stream. Welcome back. Alright. I got one for this one. Anybody else want this one? Alright. Diana squinted at me, pressing her lips together into a fine line. However, I meant what I said. We could fight too.
You expect me to trust that you can fight in a war?
Let me and my brothers train then. We're demons, for fuck's sake. We know how to fight.
The boys stared at Diana as she turned her head towards Sam. He was right, though. They knew how to train, so they knew how to fight. If they fought with the rebellion, there would be a better chance of winning this war.
You all realize this is a war, correct? You can die here.
We understand completely.
We do too, Diana.
Diana could only stare at our group as we challenged her proclamation. I wrapped my hand around my fiancé's arm, frightened at the idea of participating in a war, but knowing that we needed all the strength we could muster to finish off the demon lord. This was the only way that I could go home. Defeated, Diana sighed and rubbed her temples.
Very well. I can't exactly keep you here like prisoners, so it will be up to you if you choose to train for battle. However, I highly suggest just staying here and allowing us to handle it.
I nodded, as did the others. This was really happening. We were going to kill the Demon Lord, and we had 1 week to either prepare for war or wait it out. Diana turned towards me and looked down at my outfit. I had nearly forgotten that I was still in my wedding dress until Diana pointed at my chest.
Lumen infere, velum tebescere, serene.
I stared at her, unsure of why she was speaking in Latin, until I felt the fabric around my body shift and change. I quickly looked down to see my wedding dress morph into an outfit that looked perfect for the demon world. The white type shifted into a long-sleeved, oversized tunic with a leather corset and vest, while the bottom part of the gown split and wrapped around my legs, forming into dark leggings. My shoes stretched into long, knee-high boots.
Wow, that's so cool.
I blushed, getting used to the feel of the outfit. The corset wasn't tight, but it was still something new along with the rest of the garb. James, however, smiled down at me and kissed over my forehead.
We'll save the wedding dress for when we return.
Right.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to head for the Demon Lord's castle.
Do you plan to shadow travel?
No, I have another one. Don't worry. I'll be back by morning.
Diana looked at Faye and nodded to them as they pressed their lips together in a tight line.
Faye, please escort our guests to the remaining open rooms while we go.
All right.
Set up.
Yes, my lady.
Sarah walked towards Diana and followed her out of the room. The other demons, however, looked towards us.
I'll take you to your rooms then.
You sound so happy to do that, Faye. You just sound so enthused to take us right to our rooms. This is a choice for the guards. I don't want to do it.
Thank you. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Faye. My mind for a moment wandered to Diana and remembered her almost evil smirk when we decided to perform the curse. What was she planning to do? Hopefully nothing truly sadistic. This was completely crazy. I was stuck in the demon world with the man I loved, and I had to wait until the war was over to even consider going home. I held James' hand tightly as we walked through the halls of the castle, now worried and remembering my nightmare once again. I began to feel nervousness, nauseous even. There were so many things wrong about this, and there were even more things that could go wrong with the plan. With this plan. Oh my god, I just went straight to the plan. Kill the Demon Lord. It sounded so simple, but this war had been going on for a while. Who knew truly if this was the final battle? James most likely felt the nervousness in my hand as he gave it a gentle squeeze, catching my attention and breaking my thoughts.
Are you okay?
Yes. No. What should I do? Should I choose yes or should I choose no? What do you guys think? I got a lot of hearts. There's a lot of hearts going on over in the chat room. All right. I couldn't lie to him. I was worried about this whole ordeal, and on that fact that we were in the demon world where James came from, and my worries increased tenfold. James gently squeezed my hand, leaning over to kiss my head gently.
Everything will be all right. We'll get back home soon enough.
I know, but... James looked to me, staring at me with worry of his own.
Are you worried about your nightmare?
I nodded. The nightmare I had mildly plagued me, reminding me of what things James could potentially do. I knew it wasn't the truth, but a part of me became fearful of it honestly being the case. Whoo! That nightmare. From part 1. James furrowed his eyebrows slightly before releasing my hand and wrapping it beneath his arm, walking with me like a gentleman.
Whatever happens, I promise that no one will hurt you.
I squeezed James' arms, believing him, at least for now. It was comforting to know that he was going to protect me and help me through this. We continued down the hall, led by our guide, towards our room. The others were given rooms apparently on the opposing end. It's not the opposite end, it's the opposing end. You guys are bad! You've been geeky too much! On the opposite end of the castle, while James and I claimed the ambassador room. I had stayed in the night before. At least it was a room I was familiar with. I began to space out, imagining what was going to happen. We would kill the demon lord, break the curse on me, and go home to be married. That was the plan, but what if we couldn't kill him? What if he was more powerful than we thought? James, however, gently nudged me, catching my attention and breaking me from my thoughts.
Did you know that time works differently between the human and demon worlds?
I could tell that he was trying to calm me down with something else to keep my mind on. I became curious as to what he meant. Time works differently here?
Indeed. In this world, time moves slower. What would take a day to grow in the human world would take 5 days here.
I was astonished. Time was that different? I began to wonder how long had I been gone from the human world, if that was the case. As if James read my mind, he smiled at me.
You were gone for about 5 hours before we found you.
5 hours?! I had been in the demon world for an entire day, but back home I hadn't been gone that long. It made no sense at all, but James continued to speak as I stared in shock.
When you didn't arrive at the hall, we sent everyone home and used our powers to make sure no one would be suspicious. Once everyone left, we tracked you down and came here to find you.
I nodded in reply, taking in the explanation. It was crazy to think about, but I guess it made sense. My mind wanted to fight it, but I had to remember this was a new world, filled with its own rules, so humans' logic didn't necessarily apply here. We finally arrived in our room, and were left alone for the night. I sat down on the bed, feeling exhausted of the day, take over as James examined the room. Carefully he walked around the room, observing each bit of decor with curious care.
So this is Lilith Castle.
I raised an eyebrow. This place had a name? Lilith's Castle. James nodded, walking over to the tapestry on the wall and examined it as he explained.
This castle was the home of the first succubus, Lilith. Demons of Lilith, like myself and my brothers, come from one of thousands of branches of her bloodline. But we're not pure-blooded incubi. Diana, however, is a pure-blooded succubus, directly descended from Lilith herself.
He does need a dad, just a tad. He's like a mysterious little vampire, isn't he? My dreams flashed before my eyes, reminding me of Diana's words towards James. I nodded in understanding as he continued with a small smile.
That's why her family was able to convince the demon lord to make her my betrothed. They were extremely powerful and could easily charm others, being a pure Lilith born.
I could only imagine it, remembering how Diana controlled an entire school like it was easy for her sent a small shiver down my spine. If she was that powerful, then how powerful was she now after so long? James chuckled a bit, breaking my thoughts.
Of course, you know what happened after that.
James finally walked over and sat beside me, softly wrapping an arm around my waist and bringing me close to him. I nuzzled his shoulder, enjoying the warmth of his body. I remembered clearly what happened. James chose me after all, and I chose him. We loved each other and defied Diana's attempts to take him away because of it. I couldn't have been more proud of myself at that moment in time. James leaned down a bit and whispered in my ear, making me shiver slightly in his arms.
Besides, the woman I'm engaged to now is more amazing than any princess in all of the Five.
I blushed at his words, feeling my heart skip a beat. James really did love me. So, should we cuddle? Or should we make love? Or should we kiss him? Welcome, Rosava. Really gotta make that thing a little bigger.
Besides, the woman I'm engaged to now is more amazing than any princess in all of the Five.
Kiss him! He was so sweet and caring. I felt blessed being able to be with him, both as his fiancé and physically in the same world. My words began to slowly break apart and melt in my chest as I looked up at him and leaned in, capturing his lips with my own. James seemed surprised for a moment before he let a soft groan escape his lips and kissed me back. He gently pressed a hand on the back of my head, keeping me close as we kissed each other lovingly. It was almost orgasmic, the way his lips moved against mine. As we slowly pulled away from each other, letting our breath intermingle in the space between us, James smiled. I became lost in his whiskey-brown eyes, wanting so much to forever be entraced by him.
Come, let's get some sleep. We have a lot to do tomorrow.
Welcome back there, Benek. Bean Paka. I nodded, and both of us settled into the bed, drifting to sleep as our heads hit the pillow. I felt at peace knowing that James was by my side. But my peace didn't last. Dun dun dun! This is definitely saying human. Something, something, something. I have no clue what. What the? I felt the void around me shift and brighten to a blinding white, causing me to shut my eyes. Feathers gently brushed against my skin, and I lurched and squirmed away from them instinctively. What was happening to me? Diana's voice echoed through the air, surprising me and causing me to look around. As I turned my head to look behind me, a pair of arms wrapped themselves around me and held me close. What?
Don't struggle.
Sarah?
Et hic habet potestatum, adoro teut non et duro.
E credere de loco isto.
I became lost in what was happening. Nothing was making sense, but I knew that they were speaking in some form of Latin. The voice that wasn't Diana and Sarah, however, struck fear into my core with each word they spoke.
Zero, end this!
On Diana's command, Sarah cast some sort of spell, causing his body and mind to become enveloped in gold light. I felt every nerve in my body heat up almost uncomfortably, making me squirm slightly in Sarah's arms. Sarah, however, tightened his hold on me and continued casting his spell. At last, the world around me suddenly went dark, and I found myself shooting up in bed, awake. Yeah!
What?
I looked to my side to see James shaking awake by my sudden outburst. His eyes were glossed over from exhaustion, but he continued to watch me with worry. This was the second time I woke him up like this. Damn it! I'm sorry. Things just keep happening in my dream world.
Why are angels hunting you?
James and I suddenly shot our heads towards the sound of Diana's voice, seeing her and Sarah by the door. She had her arms crossed and a look of pure irritation on her face as she awaited my answer. However, I didn't know what to say. Angels were hunting me? I stared at Diana, confused as to what she meant. James sat up at last, matching her expression with irritation of his own.
What are you talking about?
I wasn't speaking to you, James.
My eyes widened at the slip. Did she almost say James' real name? Diana growled and clicked her teeth before looking to me again, glaring harder.
Your dream almost allowed them to erase your memories.
My body chilled at the thought. What the hell? I was confused and fearful of what was going on. What was happening? Why were angels after me? James wrapped his arms around me, seeing me visibly shaken at Diana's words.
Explain, Diana.
I can try, but I really don't know how. Is that better? I've tried here.
Ask your fiancée what she's targeted by. Don't ask me. I want to know as well.
This just makes more sense to me. I don't know. I truly didn't know. What could I say? This was the first I had heard of angels haunting me. The dream was not a dream I had ever experienced before.
Angels don't target just anyone. They have to have a reason for hunting people down to erase their memories.
It's as far up as it can go. I can probably do that if you want. Is that better?
Especially when their target is in the demon world.
I held my head and shook it, trying to figure it out. Did I do something wrong? What did I do to incur the wrath of angels? Diana sighed and rubbed her temples.
Well, they've been expelled from the castle for now. For how long? Who knows. However, we need to figure out why they are trying to take your memories away.
Oh, she helped me figure that out. It's just that I kind of like don't know how to turn it up any further.
Another problem. Great. Can this war be any more irritating?
Looking up at last at Diana, I could tell that this was a serious situation. Sarah looked at the floor, exhausted from casting the spell to expel them himself. Diana growled beneath her teeth as she looked to the wall.
Another problem. Great. Can this war be any more irritating?
You're welcome. I didn't know that was the problem or issue going on. I felt myself curl up into myself. A bit at Diana's irritation. I was already a problem that she was going to help solve, and now there was a second problem. On top of that, James hugged me gently against his chest comfortingly, feeling me shriek back away. I think it's feeling me shirk. I think it's shirk. James hugs me gently against his chest comfortingly, feeling me shirk back away from Diana.
Is that all?
From the tone of James' voice, he wanted Diana to leave immediately. Diana looked over and stared at James, a flash of slight fear in her eyes, before her face hardened to a cold glare.
No. Whatever you are doing to try and make me fear you needs to stop.
I don't know what you were talking about.
Say what you will, but I can recognize fear enthrallment anywhere. Thank your father for that.
I looked at James, seeing him glare hard at Diana, while Diana simply glared back. When her eyes trailed to Sarah, I could see a form of jealousy burn in his gaze at my fiancé. What was happening? James?
Yes, love?
Diana turned on her heels toward Sarah, now furious for some reason. Sarah, seeing his mistress turn, quickly turned as well and opened the door for her.
Sleep. We have work to do tomorrow.
Diana left with Sarah right behind her, closing the door. James embraced, finally relaxed around me and pulled me close. What was that about?
I don't know.
Should we say truly, or should we just say okay? I'm thinking truly, but what do you guys think? Okay. James nodded as I turned in his arms to fully observe him. James' face seemed very genuine. Still something was off, and I knew it. It had happened when James arrived, and apparently only occurred when Diana was around. It was some sort of power struggle between Diana and James, and he was winning, at least from what I could tell. I shook my head. If James didn't know what was happening, then maybe it was just my imagination. James, however, stared at me with pure concern written all over his expression.
Was Diana right? Were angels after you?
I don't know. I just had a dream that was full of light and feathers, and... A look of fear ran across James' face for a moment before he shook his head and returned to his calculated but worried expression. Jeez Louise, dude. Was Diana correct? Was it an angel attack and not just some random dream? My memories recalled when I was captured. The voice that appeared in my room before the imps came sounded so similar to the ones in my dream. Had they been angels as well? This was crazy. What was going on? First I'm cursed, then I'm haunted? This was unbelievable in every sense of the word. Nothing made sense, and this entire situation was confusing. What would angels want me to be? James shook his head and kissed my forehead.
Well, you're gone now. Let's get some more sleep.
I nodded, wrapping my arms around James and lying back with him. He slowly began to pat my hair, most likely waiting for me to sleep first before he did. Slowly I closed my eyes and let the darkness of sleep take over me once again. This time there was no rocky dreams. I simply floated in the darkness until I naturally woke up, still in James' arms. I looked up at James' sleeping face, so peaceful and almost happy. His arms around my form made me feel warm and fuzzy inside, causing me to cuddle closer to his body. Unconsciously, James pulled me closer to him, wrapping his arms tighter around me. I could tell he was awake. However, his breathing wasn't slow like it usually was when he slept. James? No response. He was pretending, which made me giggle a bit. Little things like this took my mind off of the world and made me forget my troubles, whatever they were. I guess that was the blessing of being in love. I smiled and kissed James's cheek, making his smile grow a bit more. I knew it. I know you're awake.
No, you don't.
I laughed and playfully smacked his upper arm, making him laugh as well, and opened his eyes to look at me. With a loving but tired gaze, I became once again lost in his eyes as he smiled at me.
Good morning. Did you sleep better?
I nodded, knowing he would be happy to hear it. I was more than happy to say it, before snuggling into his arms, nuzzling his chest. What about you? Did you sleep well? James nodded and ran his hand through my hair, petting me lovingly.
I did. All I did was dream of you.
A soft blush formed on my cheeks before I looked up at him, seeing him smile down at me.
It's the truth. Would you like to hear?
I felt myself nod before I even tried to think about the question. James smirked a bit before wrapping his arms fully around me and leaning in to whisper in my ear.
I dreamt that we were on a private island, basking in the sand beneath the sun. The wind was perfect, and you looked absolutely stunning in your swimsuit.
I began to imagine it myself, causing the blush on my face to intensify as James tightened his hug around me. My body began to heat up on its own from the warmth his body gave me.
Then he pulled me into a kiss, one that I couldn't help but melt into. You kept teasing me until I pinned you down against the sand. And I made you beg for me to kiss you.
James peppered kissed along my neck, making my body shiver at both the image of his dream and the feeling of his lips upon my skin. I let out a silent but shaky sigh as James nuzzled my head, opening his mouth to say more. Alas, our moment was broken by a loud knock on the door.
Oi! Quit fucking in there! I got food for... Go! Shit! Imagine that, dude.
We do have food, though. May we come in?
James and I let out a sigh. So much for enjoying the moment. This was the misfortune of not being alone. I knew that we would eventually have our alone time together, but for now, a blush of embarrassment ran across my cheeks in response to Sam's allegations. James smiled and kissed my forehead before lifting his head and sitting up.
Come on in, we just got up.
I sat up as well, right as the door opened to the hallway, revealing James' brothers and their wives with plates of food. Eric and Irene each carried 2 plates and handed the extras to me and James.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Irene.
My pleasure.
On the plate was food I recognized: bread, cheese, fruit, and some sort of jerky. I assumed it was safe and something I could stomach. James placed his plate on his lap before looking to the group.
So, training starts today.
Finally! We get to kick some ass.
You kick ass anyway, you dork.
Sam blushed and rubbed his neck before stuffing his face with food, not wanting to say any more. Matthew laughed and nodded.
We know what you mean, dude. You can finally kick that old man's ass.
Not to be the skeptical brother here, but is it possible to become stronger than him in just a week? It's been a while since we've had any encounter involving combat after all.
We'll kill him.
Everyone looked at Damien, seeing his stern and cold expression. I frowned, knowing why Damien was so angered at the Demon Lord. As the bastard son, Damien had been left for dead and only survived thanks to his brothers. Damien had more reason than most to hold a grudge against the Demon Lord. James, however, cleared his throat and looked to Eric.
We won't be fighting him alone. This rebellion will help us and allow us to focus our energy on defeating him.
I've been waiting years to kick his arrogant brute face in.
I think we all have a grudge against him, Sam.
We got this.
I would not be so sure.
Everyone turned to see Sarah in the doorway alone, leaning against the archway with his arms crossed.
Oh, Sarah, where is...
My mistress had a rough night. She's still recovering from it.
I grimaced, knowing that the reason she had a rough night was because of me. Sarah, however, seemed to be re-energized and somewhat bright-eyed. His gaze landed on James and glared hard, causing my fiancé to straighten up a bit.
None of you know what is None of you know of the Demon Lord's true strength.
And would you care to enlighten us?
At last, Cyril pushed off of the doorway and walked further into the room, closing the door behind him. He looked to each brother, examining each man, before settling his gaze on James again.
The Demon Lord is a madman.
You don't need to tell us that.
No. He was mad before, but he lost his mind completely when my mistress formed the rebellion against him. He's killed thousands by his own hand alone out of pure rage.
Cyril gripped on his spear, tightened, as something resurfaced in his thoughts, reflected in his glare.
Too many times has my lady faced off against him and almost lost her life in exchange.
Cyril's cold stare rehardened itself on his face as he shook away the thought and looked to Damien, who had a stony expression to match.
What makes you think that you, a band of humanized demons, have any chance of destroying him on your own?
The brothers seemed to glare in unison at Cyril, as did the wives. I, however, saw his point. The boys had been in the human world for over 2 years. They had missed so much here and had grown accustomed to human life. I had only been here a day and knew that this world was much more ruthless than the human world. Sam stood and marched towards Cyril, standing almost nose to nose with the guard and giving him a terrifying glare.
What makes you think we can't, Rick?
Woo!
I've seen with my own eyes what the Demon Lord can do in battle.
We had to live with that sack of shit for almost 100 years as his sons. You know more than you ever will.
Sam, that's enough.
No, it's not.
Sam and Cyril continued to glare daggers into each other's souls, anger burning in their eyes without any signs of retreat.
We had to live with the fact that our dad burnt down villages, enslaved people, and stole hundreds of lives day after day, ending his night fucking a woman who was chained to a goddamn bed. What the fuck makes you think that we don't know anything about it?
Woo! Sam just puts it right to the point. Damien seemed to flinch at Sam's words, but his angered face remained as Cyril and Sam had their stare down. Cyril, however, remained unfazed.
Like I said, he has completely lost his mind. If he was a monster before, he is Satan himself now. He does more than slaughter and burn villages. He takes prisoners and paints the ground with their blood while howling into the sky. He leads legions of imp demons who do nothing but make sure their victims suffer in agony before making them beg for death. He now takes pleasure not in a bed, but in the screams of millions.
In an act of defiance, Cyril straightened his back and almost towered over Sam, gritting his teeth.
If anything, the reason he's as mad as he is now is because you all decided to run, so the blame for this war rests on all your shoulders.
Instantly, Sam's fist met Cyril's jaw and forced him back towards the door. Cyril slammed into the door and gripped his hand over his mouth, rubbing it in pain.
Sam!
Sam!
Fuck you! Do not blame this fucking war on us!
Woo! Cyril whipped his lips of fresh blood that began dripping from his mouth and glared as if the punch wasn't as painful as it looked.
Arrogant mutt! The call of the human world was too tempting for you to ignore. You have forgotten about duty and responsibility.
We left because we were tired of the lives we had.
You left the world and everyone in it to become the victim of a madman and a world war. None of you understand what we have even sacrificed to stay alive.
No, we don't. And we never will.
James finally stood from the bed and placed a hand on Sam's shoulder, forcing him to step back. As Sam rejoined Carrie, who wrapped her arms around him in comfort, James looked to Cyril.
You cannot blame us for wanting to be free.
Cyril, on the other hand, began to laugh. It was a painful laugh, but one full of anger.
You have no right to defend yourself, eldest son. Because of you specifically, my mistress's entire world was destroyed.
I stared wide-eyed at Cyril. This was about their betrothal, but James did what was best for him. He and I didn't care about the consequences of our love, but Cyril's painful words made me shake. Cheryl's eyes began to burn once again in jealousy at James and rage at his words.
Because of you, the only people she had in this world, her family, was brutally murdered in the most sadistic of ways. The imps painted the walls of the castle nursery in the king and queen's blood, while her unborn baby sister was ripped from the queen's womb and nailed to the wall like a hunting trophy.
I felt sick to my stomach just imagining it, despite not wanting it to. Because I was just imagining it. God damn it! I felt sick to my stomach just imagining it, despite not wanting to in the first place. The imaginary was too much, but Sarah continued without mercy. I just started up something I didn't mean to. And you guys won't see that, but it's starting up. There we go.
Asayer had to watch her kingdom burn before her eyes and listen to the screams of her people when she returned from the human world after hunting you all down. It was only after the siege when she saw the fate of her own family.
Sarah finally straightened up. At the sight, he looked powerful and strong, but his eyes burned with anger and rage as he glared at James. For the first time in my life, I saw fear run through James's eyes.
Yet you all claim innocence. You all know nothing of innocence! Enough said!
Everyone shut their heads towards Diana's voice to see her standing in the corner of the room, shrouded by shadow. However, I could faintly see tears running down Diana's cheeks, despite the terrifying anger on her face towards Sarah.
You will not speak of the past again, Sarah. Understood?
Yes, my lady.
Diana finally stepped away from the corner and stood in front of Sarah and crossed from James, uncaring towards the rogue, tears running down her face.
What's done is done. We can't ever change the past, no matter how desperately we try. What matters now is preparing for the Demon Lord in the final battle.
I got a lot of kitties in my chat room. James nodded. It was a sore note to end on, but Diana's words were the truth. We couldn't linger on pointing fingers and having doubts now. Diana ran a hand through her hair and looked around the room, pressing her lips into a fine line.
So, about all of you participating in the war, you all obviously need to train.
Everyone nodded in agreement to Diana's statement. While we weren't battle ready, we still needed to at least know how to defend ourselves. Diana, however, looked at me. Everybody's still meowing.
You, most of all.
Huh? Me? I was suddenly confused. How come I was the odd one out that had to be ready the most? The last thing I remembered about me training was that Diana was against the idea altogether. Diana sighed and rubbed her temples.
Apparently, there are guidelines to breaking this curse. Not only do we have to kill the Demon Lord, but you have to be nearby when it happens for the curse to even break.
That makes no sense. Where did you learn this?
Shadow. He spent the night trying to find alternative ways to break your curse. Unfortunately, we didn't find anything of the sort, but we found the guidelines to breaking it.
Well, it still makes no sense.
Even while it doesn't, it's still better to be safe than sorry. I don't want to kill him and then still have you stuck here because of an error.
I could only sigh and take it in, so I had to be there when the Demon Lord fell. Great. Diana waved her hand dismissively through the air, breaking my potential thoughts.
Anyway, we can't have you dying on the way there, and we can't monitor you when we're in battle. You should at least know how to defend yourself. That's why we've come up with a solution.
Huh? What solution?
Simple. The other rebel leaders and Sarah have agreed that if you'd like a trainer to enhance your abilities, you can train with one of them.
Alright guys, it's been an hour and 30 minutes. I know you guys probably don't want me to end the live stream, but I'm going to have to until tomorrow at the same time at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And I'm in the country of USA. So thank you guys so much for coming to my live stream. We will pick it up right here. And I will make sure before I run away that the BMG is a little bit down, a little bit lower, and sound effects are a little bit down, so we have a better voices going on. So thank you so much for letting me know of that, and that would be great. And I'm sorry, but I have to wait. We'll have to pause until tomorrow. I love you guys all. You guys are awesome. Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Same time, live stream, 8 p.m. USA Eastern Time, and I'll see you guys there. And if you guys do like this live stream, please remember to give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new to my channel. You can always share it with your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I will talk to you guys later.